Welcome to this special Table Talk edition of the Sunday Forum. For this Sunday, let's just call it New Year's Day. It'll be New Year's Eve. Happy New Year! Glad you could join us for this special topic. We're taking up this topic again of New Year's resolutions, dating in the new year when you're a Christian over 50. Or may I say, trying to date well in the new year if you're a Christian over 50. We tried this topic out last fall and I got a huge response. And so I wanted to take it up again because people came back with all sorts of questions. They said, you didn't address issues like the role that the families play with a couple when they're both over 50, or what role does money play, or inheritance. The role the kids play is huge, or age disparity, or health issues. All those things people said, well, you didn't address them. So, okay, we'll try to do our best in this episode. And again, our focus is on how do Christians do this? What does our faith system bring to this whole issue of dating over 50? And we know this is a big issue in Naples. It's actually a big issue all over the United States. And once again, we talked about The Golden Bachelor. That series has come to an end. He had to choose, and he did. As far as I read, he chose well, although he broke another woman's heart. All that you can read about, or maybe you saw those final episodes. But what I think that taught me, the whole series of The Golden Bachelor, was the interest that people had in the whole topic. Because more and more people date over 50. Now, I say that just a reminder that I did some interviews in preparation for the last video, and I've done some more for this video. And in the last video, I'd say about a third of the people just weren't interested in dating at all over 50. Another third said they like dating but not marriage. And then a third said they were open to a lifelong partnership over 50. And so we want to build on what we learned last time. And one of the things we learned was women in particular were frustrated because they couldn't find someone for all sorts of reasons. They were ready for a relationship. They were ready for companionship. And often they did not feel like the men were ready for a serious companionship, let alone marriage. Often they talked about the two things that women over 50 wanted, which was compatibility and constancy, and sometimes financial security. And here was the quote that really struck me from last time. There are women that are out here trying, and men aren't ready. That's a quote from a Pew survey. And so we want to take a look at this. I've had several interviews in the congregation, but interestingly, I think, several people said they would do an interview with me, but they didn't want to come on film, which is something that I've learned, and I'll build that into my insights. But the first interview I had was with my cousin Gretchen, and I asked her what she had learned. She had a very successful dating relationship after 50 and got married to Steve, and they're very happily married. And she said, oh, here's the advice I would give to your good people in Emmanuel. Two things. First of all, nail down the faith dimension of the relationship first. She said, first date, we talked about faith, and she said the church and faith were important to me, that I'm interested in dating, but as a Christian, and I'm going to act like a Christian, and by the way, I go to church. Do you go to church? I mean, she came right at it right off the bat. And she encourages everyone to start with faith as a key component to the dating relationship. Now, the second, however, was also interesting because she talks about kids and the role that kids play. And here she had a little regret because my aunt, her mother, when she got married the fourth time, all her husbands had died. She getting ready the fourth time, and Gretchen admitted she wasn't all that supportive of her mother getting married again. It was like, come on, Mom. You know, you've had your dating relationships, you've had your marriages. Now just relax. And She regrets that because now she knows, because she was dating over 50, how important that is when we support each other, especially when adults get the support for a relationship from their kids. And many point to this fact that this can be the most fraught dimension of dating over 50. How your kids respond to a new presence in your life. So the second interview that I want to lift up, I talked about 3 F's, and I would say a little P. 3 F's. And that was very important, about faith, family, and friends. So it's sort of building on the first interview, that Faith came out and she mentioned right away, first date, she described her faith and what it meant to her and how she thought it would affect their partnership. So that's the first. But the second was, again, like my cousin, family was important. And not just the kids, but then the wider family. How does this person fit into the larger family unit? And that was important for this interviewee because they said, together we had good chemistry, we enjoyed each other, but of course, how this new person fits into the larger family dynamic is important. And they had to have many in-depth conversation with individual family members to clarify some of the feelings that were emerging in the relationship. Because we all bring a little baggage to a relationship, but also our family. Our kids bring some baggage into those relationships as well. But here's a new dimension. She talked about friends. That maybe when we got married, let's say in our 20s, our parents played the key role. But now friends are often just as important as family members because we have a solid circle of friends who we like to get along with, and we want to bring them into our relationship as well. We want then our spouse or our partner to fit in, to be embraced by our friends. The fourth thing, and I mentioned only as a little P because it didn't begin with an F, but it was interesting, is that when do you talk about politics? What role does that play? And I think that was important to me to say, are there any others besides these 3 F's, besides family, friends, and faith? Are there any other core issues, and we'll talk about those in a second, that you feel that's the platform, that's the foundation of the relationship, and you want to address them right off the bat? But now we do want to play an interview from Pat Goodyear, who also wants to share some of her insights and what she learned in dating over 50 as a Christian. Let's hear from Pat. We are here with Pat Goodyear, that she has joined us on the Sunday Forum, this special Table Talk edition, where we are discussing dating over 50, especially from the female perspective. Pat, thank you for joining me and being able and willing to tape your responses.
Thank you for asking me to be part of this.
When I talked about this topic the first time, and I mentioned who might be interested to share something, you raised your hand almost immediately. So I assume you've had some good, positive experiences and some wisdom that you would like to pass along.
Rick, I think having a wonderful relationship helps you have an additional wonderful relationship. And marriage has been good for me, children and all. So when my husband died, I was really ready to find another happiness. And I think, we were talking about what does the Christian, how does this affect Christians? And the question comes to my mind, what can we live with and what can't we live without? And so having a partner or a friend who shares faith and a Christian identity, to me, is probably the most vital part of relationship.
How long did it take you before you knew, okay, I want a relationship, but now I know I'm ready, or I'm open, or
right?
Was there a moment, or was that a slow process?
It took me a while, because I think I had to get through some grief as well as some anger, and I think we do ourselves a disservice to not admit that part of relationships can cause anger. But I was ready because I started looking. I was more aware of people around me, and as soon as I saw my husband, I fell in love with him, and that sounds silly. But there was something that happened inside my body when I looked at him, and I didn't even know his name, but for some reason there was that chemistry that really sparks.
You mentioned the Frank Sinatra song. Which one was that?
Love is Lovelier the Second Time Around, with both feet on the ground.
Maybe we'll have to get a rendition that we can play with this video. What other pieces of wisdom would you pass on? And I remember, as we talked about this ahead of time, you talked about know yourself,
Right.
know some of your limits, and be gracious, not just with the other person, but be gracious with yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. There's an awareness that allows us to enter intimate relationships. And knowing who you are and what's important for you breeds honesty with yourself and the other. And it doesn't have to be painfully honest. I think sharing important things so that you don't set up each other for a problem. And I gave you the example of alcoholism or any other disease that would inhibit an honest relationship and set up the other person for relapse.
That you should share.
Yeah.
But there might be other things from your past that you would not share, and there's that element of graciousness, I guess, that you're not digging up everything in the past.
You know what I said to you before, people who are painfully honest can be very painful. And I'm really strong in belief that if you have had some sin in your life and you have asked and received forgiveness, and it's not necessary to disclose that for the sake of a growing, deep relationship, then don't do it.
Final comment, Pat. I was struck in your email when we were talking about this emphasis of joy and sort of enjoying life, so to speak, right?
Feel it. Feel the joy, feel the laughter, feel the excitement, the anticipation, and have fun looking at the goofy smile on your face.
There you go. I like
the goofy smile that you might see in the mirror as you pass by. It's all part of it. And first, and I think most importantly, don't be afraid. You know, love and joy is a gift from God, and for us to be afraid to accept it, it's just not okay. So anyway.
Well, thank you for those nuggets of wisdom, Pat. I really enjoyed that. Thanks for joining us on this special Table Talk edition of the Sunday Forum.
I like doing it. Thank you.
First of all, I want to thank Pat for her courage to share her insights from her dating over 50. Because one of the things that I've learned with these interviews and with these discussions is that when you have a relationship, a partnership, even a marriage over 50, first thing, people are a lot more private when discussing their relationships. And you see that in many ways. Everyone I interviewed enjoyed talking to me about their relationships and their dating, but they don't want to talk about it in open. And you see that even with the wedding ceremonies, often these take place in private, or people rush off to Las Vegas and get married, but they don't hold weddings like when we were in our 20s, where the church is filled, 250, 500 people, everybody's invited. That's just not the character of a marriage when you've been dating over 50. So privacy is important, but secondly, and this was almost a surprise to everyone, they found that the intimacy, just the feelings, were sometimes even more intense than when they were in their 20s. And almost everyone says it caught them by surprise. The intensity of love. You think, oh, okay, I'm getting older. You know, my muscles are sore. I'm moving more slowly than I used to. And yet the heart can pump just as fast, if not faster, than before. And so even though all these relationships tend to be more private than when we were in our 20s, there's an intensity, which is a beautiful thing. Two other aspects of these interviews, and they were all women, so we're hearing the woman's insights into dating over 50. There were a lot of technical issues that people discussed. They said things, just issues we had to address. And they didn't bother anyone because they said we're more mature, we know who we are. It was easier to address some of these issues comparatively when they were younger. So, for example, issues like inheritance or political views, health issues, roles that one plays when one lives together, sex, all those things were easier to address, they said, because they were more mature. They were more at peace with each other. But part of being able to address those issues was, and this is the fourth point, having the core issues defined and discussed. What are the core issues? Just like a previous interview, he said, well, it was the 3 F's. Whatever that is for you, and those 3 F's is a good place to start, it's good to discuss those early and often, because once you get your core base set in the relationship, especially as a Christian, it seems like everyone would say the other challenges can easily fall into place. And so, what's your New Year's resolution? If you're interested in dating over 50 in the new year, God bless you. Share those insights. We will try once again later this spring to do a 3rd episode of Dating Over 50, but this time we're only going to interview men. Thanks for joining us on this special New Year's resolution. Happy New Year's. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye now.